Right, hello and welcome to another Dauntless Development video. Now, today we are going to be looking at operators and basically what they do, which ones to use when, and we're also going to be looking a bit at if statements and what they are and why they're important. So, to start off with, we're going to have a look at operators. So, I've got a table here, just like I did with the variables. And just like last time, this will be in the description if you want to look at it later. So, to start with, we have this operator here, and this is a not operator. So this is just an exclamation mark. I'm not sure if it's entirely clear, but yeah, that's an exclamation mark. And the not operator is used to mean to represent the opposite of something. So it's when you are, say you've got a bool we talked about last time. So a bool is true or false. You can, if you put exclamation mark true, that's equivalent to false because you're saying not true. And then if you said exclamation mark false, that would be not false. So if you had a statement like where you checked to see if a value is equal to something else and you use the not, then it would check that it's not equal instead, which is a separate operator. But yeah, not operator just means the opposite, basically. It just reverses the meaning of something. So you've got the assignment operator, which is an equal sign, but a single one. So what that's used to do is that's used for assigning a value to a variable. So as you can see, you've got x equals 5, so that sets the value of x to 5. Now, this is different to the equals operator, which is two equal signs, and that is used to check if two values are equal. So what you can think of it like is a single equals is like a statement. So that is saying x is equal to 5. If you use the double equals, you'd be saying is x equals to 5. It's a question. So one is a check, so double equals is like a check, it's a question, and the single equals is a statement. It's saying that it is imperatively 5. You've then got the not equal, so that is a not symbol, a not operator combined with an equal sign, a single one, and that is used to say the opposite of a double equals. So that's to check, are these two values not equal to each other? And it's a question. Yeah, again, it's a check. It's not an assignment. You've then got the greater than symbol, which just works the same as any greater than symbol in maths. So it checks if the value on the left is greater than the value on the right. You've got the less than, which checks if the value on the left is less than the value on the right. Then as we go down, you've got the greater than or equal. So that is the value on the left greater than or equal to the one on the right? And the same for less than or equal. Is the value on the right, on the left, less than or equal to the one on the right? And then we get to the AND operator. So the AND operator is two ampersands. And this checks if two expressions. What this does is it combines two expressions. So it could be two kind of true or false statements. It has to be of true or false, so it has to be a boolean. So it says if this is true, and then so it'll basically combine them, and it'll return a single true or false. So if one is true and the other one's true, it'll return true. If one is true and one is false, it'll return false. They have to be both the same. So in order for it to return true, you'd need both to be true. OR operator is similar to the AND. It combines two expressions together. Instead, however, only one of them has to be true. So if one is false and one is true, it returns true. But if neither are true, then it returns false. Two plus symbols is increment, so that adds 1 to a value. So if you have like a variable, like an integer, and you had, like, say, we had int a before. If we had int a plus plus, we wouldn't declare it again, but yeah, if we had a plus plus, then it would add 1 to the value. So when we have it, I'll just disable this image. You can see int a equals 5. If we said a plus plus underneath, so I'll just put like a plus plus. What that means is a will be equal to 6 at this point, because it will add 1. It will increment the value by 1. Now we've got decrement, which is 2 minus symbols, so it does the same except the opposite, so it takes 1 away. You've then got asterisk, and then an equal sign. So that is multiplying a value by a number. So the thing on the left, so if you said a times equals 2, it would mean a equals 10 because a was 5. So like in this instance, instead of having a plus plus, we said a times equals 2. Then a will be 10 because 5 times 2 is 10. Then on the next line, you've got dividing a value. So that's a / and a equal sign. And that works exactly the same. So it just divides the value on the left by the value on the right. And then you've got plus equals, which increments the value on the right. Increments the value on the left by the value on the right. So if you said a plus equals 2, instead of the original increment value variable operator, the original increment operator, which would only add 1, this will add whatever is on the right hand side. So it could be any number. And then decrement does the same again, except it decrements instead of adding. So it minus equals. And that's kind of all the operators you've got to use, really. Might not be a completely exhaustive list, but I'm pretty sure that's all the ones you really need to use. And yeah, as I said before, this will be in the description, so you'll be able to look back at this. But yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to use some if statements. And now what an if statement is it's a question, essentially, where you say, if the statement is true, then do something. So the way you write it is you say if, and then you open some brackets, and then whatever you put some kind of bool equivalent thing in here. So something that equates to true or false. So that could be, let's just say true, and then it will just do this. So if true, and then it will do the code that's inside these. So how you lay out an if statement is always if, and then you open some brackets, and then inside those brackets you put your check to see what is it you're checking against. So you could say if a equals, and double equals to check the value, if a equals 5, which it does. So in that case, it will do this code. So actually, I'm just gonna put this in here. So I'll just cut all that code. So now it'll just say if a is 5, then run all the code. So if I just hit Control F5, it should run exactly the same as normal. Yeah, so we see all that. However, if we said if a equals 4, and then we run it, we see nothing appears. And then we hit the key, and it doesn't run all this code that we had. And that's because a does not equal 4. So it won't run this code. So an if statement is a way of making sure that you only run code if a certain condition is met. So it could be, for example, you could say, you could have a check in here, like say what you wanted the user to input was, maybe you said, oh, how old are you? And the user inputted a name. Then you'd be able to say, if the thing that they inputted was a number, then allow them to continue. If it wasn't a number, then tell them that they made a mistake and you were actually asking for a number. So it's kind of it's a good way of making decisions based on what is currently happening. And this is kind of the core behind all the thinking in a machine. It's if something's true, then do this. If something's false, then do this. And it doesn't necessarily have to be true or false. You have something called if else. So you can say else if. So you can say if a is 4, do that. But I could say if a equals I'll do like 3 here, and I'll say like console.writeLine. I'll just copy this rather than write it out again, and I'll just say A is 3, and that's just a string, so that's just text that we're going to output. And what we can say as well is we can say A is and then we can have an else here. So if it, goodness me, so what this does, yeah, so and then I'm just going to quickly write this, just write it out just before I explain. So what I can say is A is something, goodness me, something else. So you've got an if statement here which says if this following thing is true, do this. Then it says else if. So what this is saying is if the first one wasn't true, so if you didn't run this code, then check if this one's true. And if this one's true, run this code. And then this one here, this else, this says if all else fails, if anything else happens, so it doesn't matter, if it manages to reach this point, always run this code. But only run it if none of the previous ones were true. So if like this is kind of the last stop. If you want something to always happen, like a default state, this is what you want to do. You want to use an else. Now we're going to use if and else statements a lot, and this is kind of the bread and butter of programming. So there's no need to go too much in depth with it right now, but we will be using it to, like I said before, I suggested about checking to see if a user input a number. We'll use that. We can also use it for a whole load of other things, to make decisions and to perform calculations depending on what kind of values are put in. But yeah, that's enough for today. So next time we'll be looking, we'll doing a bit more if statements in depth, and yeah, we'll be doing some calculations with variables and outputting different values depending on what the variables values are. So yeah, that's it for today, and I'll see you next time.